Head on a Swivel. Number 109. Welcome back. Today, we'll be looking at the Gospels of Matthew and Mark to hear Jesus' warning about the ambushes the leaders of his day walked into. So let's get started. Matthew 16 verses 5 to 12. Mark 8 verses 14 to 21. When they crossed to the other side, the disciples forgot to take bread, except for one loaf they had with them in the boat. Watch out, Jesus cautioned them. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and of Herod. So they began to discuss with one another the fact that they had no bread. They concluded, "It is because we did not bring any bread." Aware of their conversation, Jesus said, "You of little faith, why are you debating among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Do you have such hard hearts? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? Do you not remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of broken pieces did you collect? 12, they answered. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls of broken pieces did you collect? 7, they said. How do you not understand that I was not telling you about bread? But beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understood that he was not telling them to beware of the leaven used in bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. My thoughts: keep your head on a swivel. This is a common admonition of many infantry leaders to their troops going into hostile territory. In other words, watch out. Keep looking around for the enemy. And that's what Jesus is saying to his men here about the leadership in their country, both religious and secular. The religious leaders I mentioned in the last post had lost the bubble in their spirituality by becoming focused on their own ambitions and success. They were playing a religious game to maintain control of the people and reap the financial benefits. Jesus basically gives his disciples this warning. Look out. You're in enemy territory, and you could fall into the same trap they had succumbed to. Whatever ambush had waylaid them could also take you out. And it's interesting in Mark's rendition, Jesus even includes Herod, a secular leader. So this ambush isn't just taking out the religious. It's getting the political leadership as well. And I think if we looked at it closely, we would see the potential danger for all leaders. So what is the sneaky ambush the enemy had used on these leaders to warrant such a warning from the Messiah? What is the leaven? Here's my guess. I've seen in the scriptures and in life that leaders are normally taken out by 2 things: power and greed. Sex, alcohol, drugs, crime, and many more things are pretty obvious when it comes to the danger zones for leaders. But power and greed are subtle. They sneak up on you a little at a time, like leaven leavens the whole lump of dough. They're the enemy's ambush hiding in the bushes. Let me give you 2 really prevalent examples. A ministry leader starts with a humble vision, guiding his Christian organization with a servant's heart. As his influence grows, so does the taste for power. He relishes the way his words sway the organization and how his decisions shape their lives. Slowly, the thrill of control intoxicates him. Staff meetings become battlegrounds, and dissent feels like betrayal. His once warm counsel turns into commands, his care for souls overshadowed by a need to dominate. Unaware, he trades his calling as a servant for the mantle of fear. The meek man who once knelt in prayer now stands tall, clutching authority like a scepter. His organization, once partners in faith, shrink into subjects under his unyielding grip. A pastor begins his journey with noble intentions, shepherding a small congregation while earning a modest salary to supplement his part-time job. His heart burns with zeal for the Lord and a genuine love for his flock. Then comes an unexpected call to a larger church, offering a full-time salary that promises stability. He accepts, feeling it's a divine step forward. Over the years, more calls follow, each to a bigger church, each with a heftier paycheck. He moves from one pulpit to the next, convinced he's following a higher purpose. Yet beneath the surface, something shifts. He fails to notice that his fiery devotion to God and his tender care for people are quietly eroding, steadily replaced by an unspoken greed for more money and the comforts it brings. The thrill of a larger salary begins to outweigh the joy of ministry. By the time he's leading a sprawling congregation, his sermons feel polished but hollow, his prayers more routine than heartfelt. The man who once sought to serve now chases the next raise, blind to how far he's drifted from the calling that once defined him. These are just two real-life examples of many I've seen over my 45 years in the faith. They are examples of people that did not keep their head on a swivel. They did not watch out. Sad but true. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and of Herod. My story. I have to admit that there have been times where I didn't follow Jesus' advice to keep my head on a swivel and watch out for the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and of Herod. One such time, when we were restructuring a leadership team, the director asked us what we thought a potential title we should be called, and much to my chagrin, I said directors of XYZ. It just makes sense, right? He was the director over the whole, and we were directors over the parts. I have regretted the word director coming out of my mouth ever since. My heart wasn't right, and this was immediately apparent as soon as I took charge. I rushed into a problem area like the master sergeant I once was in the Army and made the situation even more of a disaster than it already was. You should have heard the beep, beep, beep as I threw my leadership in reverse when I realized I had grabbed the tiger by the tail. These people were not going to follow me or change no matter what my title was. I had let the power go to my head, and it was a painful lesson. Fortunately, pain is a great teacher, and I have not used that power play since. I have a whole different philosophy of spiritual leadership as a result. If I had to do it over again, when asked what should I have been called, I would say servant of XYZ, not director. If you want more lessons learned about spiritual leadership, just ask. I've got stories coming out of my ears. Our action plan. Now it's time for application. Here's some ideas. Have you seen or experienced the pull of these two insidious poisons, power or greed? How did you recognize them, and what did you do about them? Do a Bible study on these two ambushes with those you're discipling. Keep your head on a swivel, and beware the leaven of power and greed. This remains a timeless caution for leaders, as these subtle ambushes can quietly corrupt even the most well-intentioned hearts. By staying vigilant and rooted in servanthood, we can avoid the traps that ensnared the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Herod. Let's ensure our leadership reflects the humility and purpose of Christ.